For all the talk about schedules, rivalries, playoff chances, and recruiting, what is being lost is the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is Texas money. The SEC is the best football league in the country, and that's not even up for debate. Everybody knows it. Everybody in the game knows it. That's the precise reason why Texas has joined the SEC. All you have to do is check out the NFL draft, and you'll know that as a fact. But the best league and home of the best high school talent is in a collective freakout. And so much so, I think you could say the league is now begging for some big brother federal help so the schools don't look like they're panicking, but they are panicking. This is an amazing setup that I don't think fans really want to go here because it is a fault line that I'm not sure people quite appreciate just yet, but it is setting up in a big way. The SEC and Texas are on a collision course. I mean, it is a direct path, and it has to be decided, and it has to be settled pretty soon. At least that's what the SEC wants. So this collision course is not about the schedules. It's not about non-conference games. It's not about playoff spots. It's not about recruiting or any of that stuff. This collision course is about Texas's money and Texas's willingness to spend anything to get ahead. That's what it's about. And the SEC coaches and administrators who are freaking out have a pretty good reason to be freaked out. So name, image, and likeness, you hear it all the time, probably sick of hearing it, but this is going to be the tipping point of all of this stuff. So the name, image, and likeness, it is really the ability to create a slush fund for college athletes. That's what it is. It's not an endorsement deal. It's not an endorsement deal between athletes and businesses. They're not pitching products. NIL is straight up handing out money and gifts to athletes. Compile the money, give it to them. There is no transaction. There is no agreement that any of us know about. So it might be this NIL and this concern about Texas's money. This might be the only thing the SEC is worried about. And they're worried. So the question now going forward, can and how the SEC could rein in Texas, the Texas money machine, before they even get to the league, because that's what they're going to try to do. And so if rules are put in place, if they are, why would Texas lose its built-in advantage and go along? You can completely see Texas's point in all of this, and that is, well, these rules weren't set out before we joined the league, and we like things the way they are because we have the built-in advantage. So why would they agree to any of this stuff? The SEC, on the other hand, is saying, man, this money machine is coming our way, and it's going to buy up all the players we think we could get. We've got to do something to stop them. You see the collision course. So this we have to rein in the spending mantra from the SEC and its high-profile coaches is really turned into this eclectic mix of people, and no one can miss this part. It is over-the-top hypocrisy from Southern politicians. This is an interesting marriage now. So the whole thing starts with the least sympathetic person in all of college football, Nick Saban. He was the first to raise his hand. He was the first. He didn't handle it well. He lit the fuse, but he was the first person a little over a year ago to start waving his arms and say, you better look out. Nick Saban took some shots at the slush fund spending of Texas A&M. Since then, he's tempered that a little bit. He's not changing his crusade. He's just changing the way he words things. His crusade has morphed into what I think, if you want to pay attention, I do. I think it's morphed into a reasonable public campaign on three levels. This is what Saban is trying to tell the world, and the SEC is listening. Okay, number one, the spending. Remember, just gathering up cash and gifts, giving it to players. Don't let anybody anywhere tell you that any of this stuff is about a transaction, about pitching products. It is not. It is not. It is flat out a slush fund. And there's, outside of USC and maybe Texas A&M, nobody can spend and create slush funds like Texas. So Saban's concerns and what he's been trying to tell everybody, and they're now listening, is sort of in this order. Number one, The spending needs rules and it needs guardrails. There haven't been any. He's been saying it from day one. You need to put in some rules and guardrails. Number two, it needs to be more like the college game. And he's done a very nice job, to be honest, making this point. He thinks college football should be more like the NFL and have a revenue sharing model in place, something I've advocated for a long time, somewhere I've said they should have started all along. Saban's been saying the same thing. And his number three, his most reasonable take on this is we need to have agreements with players because it's now a one-way relationship because they get, here's his argument, and it's a good one, they get the training, they get the money and the gifts, and there's no contractual obligation to the school. In other words, Saban wants them to unionize. They won't. They won't do it. Players will not do that. But Saban wants them to. He's suggesting it. He all but suggested it this week. And so one of his arguments is, and again, it's not sympathetic because he's a rich guy himself, but he thinks, and he's right, I think, man, we bring these guys in, we give them the best internship they've ever wanted to get to the NFL. Then we've set up a situation where we just hand them money, we hand them gifts. Texas hands out Lamborghinis like it's candy. And then we don't have any agreement between the two parties. There's nothing to keep them here. They can go wherever they want. So Saban thinks there should be more contracts. He thinks it should look like an NFL players agreement. So if you agree, you should have to stay 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. And no such thing exists. Is he right? I think he is. Will it matter is the bigger story. That's where this whole thing is, and who knows if it changes. When you ask, will it matter, look at it this way. Will Texas listen and agree to something? I mean, most people would say, well, why should they? They've got a built-in advantage. They've got more money. They will spend more money than anyone else. See, the SEC is not going to have the financial wherewithal that Texas does. Those schools don't have it. They don't have the alumni base. They don't have the lucrative alumni base. Their states and cities don't have the economic capacity that Austin or University of Texas has. So the ability to tap into slush funds is light years ahead for Texas than it is for schools like Alabama or LSU. These are not schools in wealthy areas with wealthy alumni like Texas. So why would they listen? Will they listen? Other SEC coaches have started waving the flag, and that includes LSU's Brian Kelly, who just this week went public and sort of carrying the Saban crusade. Listen, we're at a real crossroads here. This isn't going to work. This current setup, and all the coaches are now saying it. This current setup is not going to work for us. They're probably right. They're panicking. So the sports now is like a rogue version of free agency. That's what it is. But it's a rogue version of free agency with no real stipulations. The NFL has free agency, and there are terms to the free agency. There are agreements that you have to go through. There's salary caps. All the things the SEC is saying that Texas probably doesn't want any part of. No rules, no spending caps. Texas likes it just the way it is. So now the SEC schools who have dominated the landscape for a decade, easily a decade, best football conference by far, we all know it. They're worried that they're going to start slipping because their schools do not have the deep pockets of A&M, Texas, and USC. It's an unfair financial fight, they're saying now. Now, guess what they're going to do about it? So what they're doing about it is begging for the feds to help. And I think they'll get it. They've already made several trips to Washington to talk to sympathetic Southern lawmakers to say, you got to step in, you got to fix this, you got to create some caps, you got to create some rules because we need it. Football's our lifeblood. We need it fixed. There are two things now, and this is why I think that the Southern politicians are going to come and help them. Two things matter to Southern lawmakers, Republican lawmakers. One, Donald Trump, and two, college football. If you diss Nick Saban, if you ignore Nick Saban and you want to stay in office in the South, good luck with that. You diss Nick Saban publicly, you're out of office, period. In a weird way, it's Saban's power, college football's power in the South to the fan base and the voter is like getting the blessing from Trump. Or if you get dissed by Trump, you're finished. If you get blessed by Trump in the South, you're fine. So if he likes you, you stay. If he turns on you, you're out. I think you can make an argument the same thing works for Saban. The same thing might work for Brian Kelly and plenty of others. When college football says we need your help, and college football is so powerful in the South, don't you think those lawmakers are going to jump? So that's the setup. Now what? Well, instead of making their own rules, they screwed up. Everybody screwed up from the very beginning. Nobody wanted to make any rules. Nobody wanted to create a revenue sharing model. It was their own fault, their own negligence, lack of planning, lack of leadership led to this chaotic phase in which Southern Republicans are now hearing from college football saying, please help us, stop the rich guys. Don't let the rich guys spend all they want, talking about Texas. So they've asked Congress to make the rules for them. And they've done that just in the past few weeks. And they're going to press Congress. I think it's pretty obvious. And I think it's no coincidence that you keep hearing these college coaches come out and talk about this in the South. And that is, this is unfair. We're at a crossroads. What are we going to do about it? We need some rules. That is, they're sending smoke signals to Congress to say, hurry up and hurry up now before this Texas team gets in our league. Will they get it? Will they get some sort of help? Will they get some sort of revenue sharing? Will they get the caps they want? What they want is the ability to level the playing field financially. What they want to figure out is, listen, Texas can outspend us 3-1, 10-1 probably. How do we stop that and even that out? Congress, please figure it out, and you pass the rules and make them pay attention. That's what they're doing. Will they get it? I think so. I don't know what form it takes. The fact that your elected officials would be spending time and energy on this is pathetic. It really is. I think Texas could say, everybody had a chance to pass some rules. Everybody had a chance to put salary caps in. You didn't do it. Don't go whining to Congress. Let's just move forward. That's what Texas's position is going to be. So the fact that Congress is and will continue to spend time on this is just ridiculous. The answer back should be to the SEC. We worry about taxes and war, not whether you're afraid of losing out on a football recruit. But that's not the world we live in, and that's certainly not the power of college football in the South. I think they'll get involved, but can they make? Now, here's where the course really starts to collide. They get involved. The feds get involved, wave the wand, here are the rules, here's how it's going to work. Can they make Texas and Texas A&M play along? Let's say they create a salary cap. Let's say they are or NIL cap. How much money you can give out? Because that's really what they want. Let's say they create that cap. Let's say the federal government steps in. It's pathetic. Don't get me wrong. It's pathetic. And they step in, and then they put these caps in place. What if you're in A&M in Texas? I mean, you didn't agree to this. Do you have to follow along? What are your alternatives? What if you want to say no? But if you're the 1% of the big spenders in college football, and it really comes down to just a few schools, A&M, Texas, USC, and maybe Ohio State, but they're the 0.0001%. That's who everyone's afraid of. That's who the SEC is afraid of. You want to be left alone. The 1% or half of 1%, they want to be left alone. They want no part of this. So you like the no rules. You like the no revenue sharing. You like the no spending cap. You like it just the way it is. So who gives? I mean, the setup is there. I know people want to talk a lot about football. People want to talk about scheduling and matchups and all that cool stuff. But what everyone is dismissing is this massive collision that is about to take place and whether or not the federal government can slap Texas and A&M and USC on the wrist and say, you know what, you're going to play by different rules. Here are the rules. And how fast could they put them in place? And then the best question of all is going to be if and when Texas gets these new rules, what if they don't agree? What if they don't want to play that way? What if they don't want to lose their built-in advantage?